not just Labour or the coalition partners fighting it out in these elections. In fact, it could be the smaller parties or even the independents who make some headway among the voters. Charlotte Callan reports.
They started off as the Magnificent Seven. Now there are 8 of them. These men and women are independent candidates vying to become councillors in Bristol. Their aim is clear: to unseat party politicians, taking advantage of the none-of-the-above feeling amongst some voters. They think they could emulate the success of the independent mayor of Bristol, George Ferguson, and the independent police and crime commissioner, Sue Mount-Stevens.
Without bragging, I think we are slightly groundbreaking what we're trying to do, and it's something new and fresh for Bristol, and I think that's reflected in how everyone feels about what's going on. Everyone's a little bit nervous, everyone's a little bit intimidated to a degree, but everyone's very positive.
There's no doubt many voters are disenchanted with conventional party politics.
It's a difficult one to call. I think for some people it will be a protest vote. I think that's on the record. Some people have said we've had enough of the main parties, we want to send a message, and this time it might be UKIP, another time it might be another alternative.
So there's real choice for voters on May the 2nd, even for those who are fed up with the traditional party politics.
Well, let's welcome our other guests today. They are the Green Councillor Gus Hoyt and Stephen Perry from the Independents for Bristol campaign. Welcome along to you both. Let's just talk about green policy first of all. A couple of your policies: you want reliable public transport, public health care for all, etc., etc. How would you generate the wealth to pay for all that?
The wealth here in City, or you've just spoken about national.
Let's talk about what you do here to create jobs and the wealth to pay for all these wonderful services.
To create jobs here, it's quite simple, and that's just we need to invest more in the local economy, in the local high streets. You'll find smaller and medium-sized enterprises and businesses employ far more people per pound.
So when you say generated. We need to, who needs to?
Well, we as a council, because obviously we're talking about the local elections here, so local green councillors who will work with people in their wards and hopefully with the mayor as well.
Right, so where's that money coming from? That's what I'm not quite clear.
Well, the money's already there. These are council policies which we can influence and essentially sort of stop the invasion of supermarkets and multinationals, which suck out about 80% of the city's wealth.
That's a key policy. Okay,
absolutely, especially on Gloucester Road. That's a prime example there.
All right, let's talk about what the independents can do. We've got an independent mayor. Are we moving to an era, I should say, my Bristol coming out, an era where the sort of main political parties aren't relevant locally?
Well, earlier you were talking about the significant change in the power of the mayor, and it's true. He has great executive power, so the role of the councillor will and is changing. In fact, it began when the cabinet gained all the power a few years ago. And so, as was said earlier by Stephen about championing the wards is becoming the key thing. And we would argue that we now need people who have policies of their own for their own ward, not a party policy. I don't understand why you bring bedroom taxes and living wages into local council elections, for example. The things that we would be interested in is, does a particular ward want a community centre that's there, or does another one want to bring more solar panels in through a cooperative, or does another want to have self-built houses?
You want to make these guys redundant, is that what you're saying?
I'm saying we don't see much point in the party political system in local government.
It's on the question of independence. The thing is, at least if you vote for one of these two, or one of the main political parties, you know roughly what you're getting.
Do you?
Well, you know that they...
Well, I would question that because
but you could get any oddball standing as an independent.
Well, they're not oddballs. We've got
a great less.
Well, because we've interviewed. Well, you will find out that people will have to judge for themselves in the individual elections. Of course,
they're not really independent because you've interviewed them. So they
have looked at them to see how they stand. Are they exactly that? Are they nutters? No. Are they willing to stand by the Bell principles of integrity and honesty and looking at public life? Yes, that's what we've looked at.
We have to do that too.
We have to do that too. Yes, indeed. But you're also looking for people who will toe the party line. You have a whip. We will have no whip under. I know you don't, but there are two of you.
There's only one MP. Got with myself.
I was talking about in the council, Stephen. But yes, I'm actually the Green
whip each other.
And well, no, hopefully we'll have a lot more soon. But no, we strongly agree with you on that. That the party whipping system is destroying modern politics.
Yes. So, do we move back then, as I repeat the question really, to the era of before the war, when it was good citizens standing for the benefit of the community. And therefore, what is your role?
Well, I do think there needs to be a separation of politics at Westminster level, where Kerry and I are, and local government level. As I said, it used to irritate me considerably when I was a councillor in Bristol that journalists would ask you about national issues when my focus was on traffic calming in Kingsdown in the city centre where I represented. And I would really love it if the media always consistently talked in a general election about national issues and a local election about local issues, and then people could vote for their local champion or the best person they think who could represent them as a member of parliament, who's a member of a national team with a list of policies. And yes, then you do know roughly what you're going to be getting from national office.
Do you agree?
Sounds to me a little bit like the line Stephen's been given is to dissociate himself or the local candidates as much as possible from what's going on nationally in government and
toxify the local brand.
No, look, in America, you have the federal election for the president, you have your senator, you have your congressman, you have your city mayor, you have your local dog catcher, and people vote differently in different elections, and they know what the powers have. In this country, we tend to see politics as a great amorphous mass where we all seem to be the same. And I agree with the independents, that is a big problem.
But you're not popular. The parties are not popular. Okay. They've never been held in lower esteem.
Okay. My constituency Labour got more votes than George did.
On that note, I'll have to thank you very much indeed for coming in. Thank you.
Independents for Bristol are fielding 8 candidates in the local elections on May 2nd. Carl Belizaire, Ashley. John Hickey, Bishopston. Brenda McLennan, Clifton. Jane Westhead, Easton. Oliver Mochizuki, Horfield. Jason Budd, Kings Weston. Christine Townsend, Lawrence Hill. Helen Mott, Westbury-on-Trim. Dare to be different. Vote Independents for Bristol on May 2nd.